Hi folks, welcome to the Prepared Homestead. This is Travis. Thank you all for stopping by to watch. Gonna give a little update on the map here in just a minute. While we're doing that, if you would not mind to click the subscribe button below. And when you do that, off to the side, a little bell, and you can click on all, and that way you will receive all the notifications for any video that I post. And we appreciate what you guys and gals watching us here on the YouTubes. Today's video gonna be talking about food, supplies, things that's happening that you might need to know about. Some of you probably have already heard, but like always, you're gonna get my perspective of it. To give an update on the map, I haven't added any pins. This isn't a bad thing, I'm not complaining, but I have been shockingly overwhelmed by the amount of people that's been contacting me over this map idea. And so I'm a little backlogged. We have created a database, and my wife and I are putting it all together, and we're hoping to have, at least up to the point about right now, all the names in it, so that we can put the pins on the map, and then I'm going to start sending out emails to everyone, or the ones that I can connect, because there's already a lot of people that I can connect. For those of you that don't know what I'm talking about, I'm not going to go into the details of what this is because it just takes too much every video. So there's a link in the description below talking about the map and what this is all about. It's a little way that I've created to help connect all of you like-minded people across the United States and around the world, really, because I've been getting contacted from people outside the U.S. asking to put them down on the list and see if there's anyone around them. So anyways, there'll be a link in the description below, and we'll that way you can watch it. Now, when I start sending out emails to people, I have made a video that I posted over my Patreon page, and it's just some tips and some ideas on how to do this safely, ways to kind of vet each other and try to get to where you can kind of trust the person to a certain extent, because it's new people, and in the world that we live in, you have to be careful about who you meet, who you talk to. When I send that email out, I'm going to leave a link in that email to that video so that you can watch that video without even being a Patreon member. Most of the time you have to pay at least $1 to get on Patreon, on my Patreon page, to watch the videos I put on over there. But this one, because you'll be on this list, I'll leave a link to that video that you can watch to give you some kind of helpful tips on vetting each other. All right, and by the way, thank you all for the overwhelming response, the positive response, the uplifting words that you've been giving me. And most of the emails I've received, I haven't even had a chance to respond yet, but we are getting to them. It's a lot. I mean, minute by minute, a lot. So just bear with me, but we're catching up on it. All right. Something we talk about a lot. And, well, I'm not the only one that talks about it. Just about all the prepper channels talk about it. So this isn't necessarily probably brand new, up-to-date news. But I believe, and many others believe, that we are facing, again, and even worse than we did back in the spring, we are going to be facing some shortages. And this is something that we need to be prepared for. So I want to talk a little bit about that, but I'm also going to throw out some ideas on things to stock up on that maybe you haven't thought of. Because, you know, anyone that's been around in prepping long enough, you know, the first thing you think of is beans and rice, beans and rice, beans and rice. But there's other things that we need to stock up on. So while we're on the subject of food, just some stuff here lately that's kind of trickling out in the news. And if you want more detail on this, a channel that I suggest, and that's all he focuses on. That's his primary focus of his channel, and that's Ice Age Farmer. The guy puts out some really good information, tons of facts and data, and he has it all right there backing it up about food shortages, how the weather, the climate, the political climate, everything is affecting food. Guy puts out some great content on that. So if you want more details, go over and check out the Ice Age Farmer. China has been suffering because of climate, weather, and then also all this shortages and shutdowns, and they have just been struggling when it comes to food. In the past, China was one of the largest producers of food, at least some foods, and that is not so anymore. And we have to remember that China, we're talking 1.5 billion or so people in that country. That's a lot of mouths to feed, several times more people in that country than there is here in the United States. And so when they're saying that they're having shortages on food, when they're not able to produce enough rice, they're not able to import enough food, the rest of the world should take notice, because while it's not uncommon for some of your very poor countries to not have food, most of them import their foods. When a country the size of China that's been a big exporter of foods, all of a sudden is no longer exporting those foods and is scrambling the world trying to import enough food just so that they can stay alive, that's definitely something to take notice. So they've had some major flooding this year in parts of the country. In fact, kind of their breadbasket where a lot of their farming is, but they've also had other areas of major drought. Of course, there was the pandemic and major shutdowns. Imports and exports have been greatly affected over there. So that country, just on its own, the food shortages that's happening there, it's pretty intense. I mean, the country has, their government there has issued some rulings on you're not allowed to waste food, encouraging people to cut back on the amount of food that they eat. Restaurants are only allowed to serve so many people, so if you walk in with 5 people in your party and they're only allowed to serve 4 of them, so the 4 people have to split up their food so that they all can eat. I mean, it's some pretty crazy stuff. Not that unusual from China, but it is kind of crazy. Over here in the United States, you probably could find information saying both, that we have huge harvests this year, and then some that say the other. But and it all depends on what product or food that you're looking at. I was listening to the local radio station here. They have a farm report. It's a talk radio show, a talk show radio station, and listening to the local farm report. And so this is not conspiracy type stuff. They were talking about how virtually every state that is a corn producer has yielded much less corn this year. That not just overall corn, but corn per acre. They're just not producing and harvesting as much corn as they have in the past, or even what their just annual expectations are. So while we're not talking shortage to the level that we're going to all starve to death, there's just a lot less corn harvested this year. The one thing that they did say that looked really good was the bean harvest. The bean harvest in most states was higher than normal, but they said for whatever reason, the beans themselves just are poor quality. They're small, little bitty tiny things, and they're poor quality. They're harvesting a lot more, they're reaping more harvest, but they're just poor quality. Places all over the world are experiencing shortages in one way or the other. And some of it is related to the pandemic, and some of it's not. Some of it's weather related. If you remember back a few months ago, the storms up in the upper northwest or north central United States, Iowa, places like that just hundreds of thousands of acres was destroyed of crops. We have the wildfires out west, and that has affected some of the cropland out there. So there's a lot of factors happening all at the same time. And then on top of that, we have this pandemic, second, third wave, whatever. I've seen some news agencies call it a third wave, other ones call it a second wave. It doesn't matter. And it doesn't really matter if it's real, if people are really, none of that matters. I tell you guys this all the time. You know, I don't even get into the argument of that, because what matters is what the people believe. And just like when we saw all the panic buying and people were, you know, driving off with truckloads of toilet paper, it's the perception of the people that what really matters. And if they believe that this is happening, that's what the media is going to hype, that's what both political parties, they're all going to hype it up, that it's, you know, the doomsday end is near, the sky is falling, because we're all going to die from a disease that, you know, kills 99 point whatever percent, that it's survivable for 99 point whatever percent, 4%, 5%, 6%. So the people are going to be terrified. Everyone's already on edge already. We talk about this all the time. 2020 has everyone on edge. It's like this pressure cooker that's just building and building and building with steam, and it's just ready to just explode. And there's just like just the tiniest little thunk is going to cause it to explode. That's the feeling I get from a lot of people. People I've talked to in person, people online, just random posts that I see online on various social media networks and different things. Everyone is just on edge, and they're just waiting. They know that the end is near. You know, they know it's going to get worse. They know that the next day there's going to be something new and some horrible event has happened. It's like everyone's just waiting for it. And so as the numbers, and they are increasing during this health crisis, once it hits that point where everyone's starting to panic, we're going to see some serious shortages again. But it's going to be worse because, like I've said before, we're in worse conditions already to start off with. And so take the bad conditions we're in right now and add to it panic buying and shortages and all that. It's going to compound greatly. And so, folks, I wish I was wrong. I hope that I'm wrong, but I don't believe that I am. It's not just me saying this. You can virtually all over the internet, everywhere you check, people are saying it's going to get bad, folks. This is serious. I don't really, you know, I'm starting to lose my sympathy on folks that say, well, I can't because of this, I can't because of that. A lot of foods are still cheap, okay? There are still many, many ways to do this for just a small amount of money. So if you're poor or don't have a lot of money, you can still do it. If you have a little bit more money, there's ways to do it that's even easier. Yeah, the cheap ways take a little bit more effort. There's other ways you can buy stuff already pre-made, freeze-dried type stuff. You've got to start putting stuff back, because not only are there going to be shortages, prices are going to skyrocket. Grocery prices have already gone up everywhere. People, you already know this. They've already gone up, and it's only going to get worse, folks. There's just, you can't do this much damage to a system and expect everything to just continually be okay. It's not going to be okay for a while. The food supplies are lessening. The prices are increasing. Harvests are low in a lot of areas. People are panicking in a lot of areas already. It's gonna be serious, folks. So you have got to stock up, and don't just, you know, I would recommend right now a minimum of 3 months, a minimum of 3 months of food. You can do that. It's not that difficult, but if nothing else, shoot for 3 months, and I would have that 3 months supply purchased within the next couple of weeks, because I think it's going to start getting a lot worse after that. There's also other things you need to be, you know, looking at. Through what we've seen so far since going back to, you know, March, April, or whatever, when we first started seeing shortages and panic buying, it's different everywhere. You know, there's things up in, say, Washington State that they're out of that we have plenty of here, and vice versa. So it's really difficult to say, hey, this is an item you need to get. But here's some things that I've noticed. that either were in shortage or you should remember to stock up on. Anything that's canned foods, for whatever reason, they seem to have difficulty, with the metal, the lining that they put inside the canned foods, kind of a plastic wax type lining. There's been shortages of those supplies, so there's still a shortage of canned food. So stock up on that kind of stuff. Things like aluminum foil, batteries, are some things to stock up on. Canning supplies. If you're still canning, I'm telling you, you can't hardly find it. If you can find used stuff, if maybe your grandma or some other person that's canned in the past but they don't can anymore, maybe you can say, hey, why don't you give me your canning jars and I'll give you a part of what I can, in trade. There are ways you can do that. Now, still keep checking, because every once in a while these stores will get a little shipment in, for instance, like the canning supplies. Shelves will be bare for weeks or months, and all of a sudden they'll be full, but only that one time. So check on that kind of stuff. Paper products, if you use any paper products, paper towels, toilet paper, of course, that kind of stuff, put a little back here and there, because they're having a hard time keeping up on that. Kind of health care stuff that you use all the time. My wife mentioned, feminine supplies. It wouldn't hurt to stock up on a little bit of that. It's not terribly expensive to put back 2 or 3 months supply of that kind of stuff. Lumber is ridiculous, and from everything I've been reading, there's no expectation of the prices coming down anytime too soon. So if you have any projects that you need to do, I would suggest getting that lumber, getting it now. Hardware for the lumber, screws, nails, nuts, bolts, that kind of stuff. Stock up on that kind of stuff also. Automotive supplies, maybe some extra oil, spark plugs, anything like that to do tune-ups if you need it. Keep a little extra fuel on hand. I've mentioned before, keep your fuel tanks topped off, or at least close. I wouldn't let them go below half tank, which is a good rule with winter coming on anyways. But, and I know you're saying, well, gas is cheap right now. It is, but that could change. And there could be a run on that, just the panic. If there's the health crisis gets worse, if the stock market crashes, or the dollar crashes, we don't know what will happen. That's why we prep, because we don't know. So we do all these things to kind of get stocked up and ready for it. But just try to think of those kinds of things that maybe yeast is one of them. If you bake bread, yeast before was really hard to come by, and it may be that way again. My audience. But just try to remember some of the things that were in short before. Some of it's still in shortage. And, make sure you have the adequate supplies, over-the-counter medicines, things like that. Maybe some herbs, bulk herbs are good to put back. Another thing is alcohol, not just like rubbing alcohol, which is also important, but also distilled alcohol. Even if you don't drink, people, they laugh at me because I got a whole shelf full of cheap vodka, and I don't drink it. I don't drink that kind of stuff. But I keep it stocked up because I make herbal medicines with it. It can be used as a disinfectant, and it has a very, very long shelf life. So keep stocked up on that, and also with your cleaning supplies, disinfectants, bleach, stuff like that. Keep it stocked up. Bleach doesn't have a really long shelf life, 6 months, year tops usually, but make sure you have at least a few months of that set aside in case you need it. Again, folks, I don't know how much more I can push you, encourage you, give you the ideas, because I think hard times are coming, winters are coming, shortages are coming. I think what we saw back in the spring, when most of us were kind of sitting back and laughing like, we got all the stuff we need, I think that was just a test. It was just a blip of what we're actually going to really see. So even you seasoned preppers that think you have everything you need, you don't. do what you can to stock up on some other stuff. You know what I'm talking about. I don't have to tell you the details. Just stock up on things. Make sure you're ready as possible. We can't be 100% ready, but we can sure get more ready than what we are today. So put some ideas. What are you guys thinking about stocking up on? What have you been stocking up on? What have you been seeing shortages of in your area? Leave the comments in the comments below, so that others can see that also. And then, like I said, with this map, we're working on it hopefully tonight. Tomorrow we'll have pretty much everything caught up and start making contacts with you folks. So don't give up. It's just a lot more work than I thought it was going to be. I did not anticipate this level of response, and I like it, so I'm not complaining. Just give us a little time to get ourselves caught up with it. All right, folks, thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.